Contenders. It's the heart and soul of our sport.
Where all our heroes start on their path to greatness.
What is Contenders about, you might ask?
It's about these little shining moments
where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
They get better, better, and better.
Twisted Minds, currently ahead of everybody.
Whisper showing why they're number one.
That is a huge shift of momentum.
Oh my God, Squid. What on earth? How did Saints even manage to bring that one back?
Genuinely one of the best Baras in the entire world.
It all stems from this moment right here.
No way, Quandop!
I love this when the fight is dire, when they must make a play.
Nothing short of magnificent.
LH Cloudy, two-man self-destruct. I never thought I'd see that in my life.
Oh my God, this meta's great. There's so much diversity.
They're not going down without fights. A big throw! Delucio hits the ground! Another sound barrier finally lands from Kellex. The Blizzard out. It's bought 3 kills from Twisted Minds. EXO are desperately contesting. Just wrestle control of the map. Nobody's feeling safe.
The best storylines that we have in Contenders are these teams that come in and they surprise as things go on.
For us, weeks and weeks of play have led to this moment.
But for these players,
it's more than that.
It's everything they are and everything they want to be.
The Overwatch Contenders Spring Series playoffs continue right now.
Welcome everybody back to the Overwatch Contenders playoffs. My name is Dustin, joined by Moxie, and today we have 2 exciting matchups for you. We're nearing the very end of the journey, Moxie. Obviously, it's been a very, very long season this week, or this entire season, I suppose, for Contenders and in Europe. And Moxie, obviously, these matches today will mean a lot going forward.
yeah, like you said, we are nearing the end. In fact, it all ends tomorrow. Can you believe it? Oof. It's gone by in an absolute blink of an eye. I swear, time has been marching on so quickly. It feels like we were only just starting the season and only just getting to start to see the beginning of Twisted Minds' run of dominance as they still remain undefeated. A little bit of a hiccup, a 3-1 against Triple Esports when we last saw them, but coming in up against EXO, I just can't wait to see whether or not we're going to see any adaptations coming through from either of these teams.
Yeah, I wonder if we will. I mean, I think that we've seen so far with Twisted Minds, continue to play around the strengths of their team. And, Oblivione kind of doing the same thing, trying to recall the likes of old Oblivione being as good as they have been. And as we take a look at the bracket and kind of, remember what exactly happened, it seems like Moxie, Oblivione, and Twisted Minds have kind of taken a similar path up to this upper bracket finals.
Yeah, EXO actually able to beat, this was something that we'd theorized coming in since there was a little bit of downtime between regulars and playoffs. Teams had a little bit more time to really find their footing against some of these compositions. Very known for the comp that they like to field towards, the same for the likes of Triple and Twisted. So it does make sense that now we move into playoffs and teams have had the time to be able to compute these strategies, that they are having a little bit more of a challenge. But EXO being actually able to see down to the lower bracket secured this little safety bubble for them. They're going to be matching up against Twisted, so I don't know how safe it is, considering, like I said, this team is still entirely undefeated. They've dropped a couple of maps here and there, but in terms of actual series wins, they remain at the top of the entire seed by a very long margin. And when you look at the roster, you can see why. These guys are absolutely cracked.
Yeah, I think that overall Twisted Minds have one of the most stacked lineups in the entire EMEA region, and that's a good way to put it, because so far they've just kind of dominated, right? I mean, obviously in the group stages leading up to the playoffs, they really just put on an absolute show. And now obviously subbing in Quartz, or starting with Quartz instead of their different lineup with Lebda on the lineup as well for Twisted Minds. This team really has been on fire. And then if we take a look at Oblivione, Moxie on the side, got a completely different lineup on their hands.
Yeah, no surprises that we're going to see Twisted Minds field towards Quartz at the start, because when you look at the starting DPS lineup for EXO, Cookie and Maymone. Cookie is incredibly flexible at being able to play all of these different hit scans, Maymone an incredibly gifted Tracer as well, so it does make sense they want to try and push away from that Echo composition and go towards something that's a little bit closer to the mirror matchup, where I think these two are going to be incredibly strong. Especially for Vestola and KSA, both of them are incredibly competent when it comes to what we would classify as original off-tanks. Vestola known for his Diva, KSA, well, we heard it from Slay last week. He said that he believes that KSA is just the best Ramatra in the entire EMEA region at the moment, and we're yet to see anything that proves that wrong.
Yeah, I think that he's correct. I think so far, obviously, KSA has been a fantastic player. And like you said, Vestola playing that similar role and really has to match KSA in that front, in which he's been able to do so, previously. And obviously, I think a big talking point for this matchup is that first map between these two teams, which is obviously going to be Control. Moxie, I want to get your take on it, maybe leading into this. I know we've had obviously a week off, but for this matchup in particular, who do you think edges on the Control map? Who has that advantage leading into it?
Again, I think it's really going to come down to who wins that first fight. There's a reason we talk so much about the percentages. The chances are that if you win that first fight, you get something like an 85% chance of winning the entire map as a whole. And especially because both of these teams are most likely going to go something mirror matchup, it's even more important that they're able to find that original ground so that your hit scan have the chance of being able to exchange those opening shots. Quartz and Cookie incredibly close as well when it comes to mechanical skill, so it really is going to be up to one of those DPS to properly pop off. And we've seen last year Cookie best Soja in EMEA, hands down for A sides. But Quartz last week, the fact that he was able to push Yazan, one of the world's best farers, off of that pick on Cassidy, an unsupported, undamage boosted Cassidy, still lacking that extra 25% health. Absolutely insane. He was hitting so many shots.
Yeah, he really has been a standout player so far, and Nepal's going to be the first map for us to go to, Moxie. And I like how you mentioned that, right? Cookie, like you said, one of the top mechanical players. It's cool to see him back, in a position to potentially even win Contenders yet again. And in the meanwhile, Quartz on the other side really, like you said, has been continually improving. And honestly, like he could easily be the very best, hit scan DPS player. Obviously, we talked to Slay in an interview after they won last weekend. It seemed like Twisted Minds are very, very confident in his play style and how he's been, popping off in its entirety. And I think another standout player so far for them, Moxie, which I think he goes under the radar at times for Twisted Minds, is Yubi, right? This guy has the flexibility of playing the Mei, can play the Tracer at points. I mean, it feels like both DPSs have really taken it to another level in the season.
Well, again, we talk about the fact that Quartz and Yubi both playing for the Ultimates last year were a package deal there, and they're a package deal here. And their synergy, like you said, is absolutely insane because Quartz pulls so much focus. All of these players trying to play out of the line of sight, pushing them around those corners, sets that Tracer up to be able to have so much more room to really be able to pummel, blink in, find those sticks, find those one clips, and if you try and move away from that anticipation of the pulse bomb, you run straight into Quartz. It's a double threat, and it's one that Twisted Minds are absolutely excellent at being able to really play to an advantage when it comes to closing off spaces.
And on the other side, right, Moxie, I mean, obviously, Oblivione has to deal with the likes of Twisted Minds, and they've been able to at least take down other teams in a similar fashion, leading forward into this upper bracket finals. But obviously, they haven't gone up really against the likes of Twisted Minds just yet, at least in the playoffs. And that is going to be the biggest challenge, obviously, like Twisted Minds coming through this. What do you guys think in the chat, ones or twos, to see who is going to maybe take this one? Obviously, I think Oblivione has built up a decent fan base over the years, Moxie, through their, honestly, utter dominance of EMEA as a overall group of people. But obviously, since it's a completely different lineup, things have been changing. Obviously, Twisted Minds have kind of come in as the favorites for a lot of these matches. But I could see Oblivione kind of taking it to the wire here against Twisted Minds.
I mean, you want to talk about changes in lineups, so remember that Twisted Minds literally are running 3 players who used to play under the XO label. KSA, Slay, Calyx were all there last year for EXO when they had such a dominant run. So it's personal for both sides of the coin.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think Oblivione stay winning, even though they're not, obviously on their team anymore. Twisted Minds as players. do have that pedigree. And we're going on to that map number 1, Moxie, obviously, Paul, and looks like it's going to be Village first.
Yeah, it does look like we're going to be seeing both of the Mays come into play. If you're able to find that wall off on the point, you should be able to find a nice lot of stall, as well as really being able to play into the minds of your opponent. But it does seem like we might see a little bit of difference in terms of that secondary DPS. However, both of these teams opting to run the Sojourn off of the Symmetra.
Okay, similar compositions through both sides. Vistola already going forward with the pummel form, trying to take some space, create a little bit of engage here for Oblivione, and maybe build up that charge for Cookie to get the railgun shots, but a Maywall comes through. Maymon stuck on that left side and gets taken down by Yubi. Tried to wall himself off, but it was far too late. Now the rest of Oblivione are getting split off from Cookie on the high ground, get walled on the low ground as well. So it looks like Twisted Minds surely will take that fight number 1. Eventually the lamp comes through to save Vistola in that fight, but fight number 1 for Twisted Minds already.
This is now dangerous for Cookie in regards to the damage that Quartz is able to do. He's able to live, so he retains a lot of that rail charge as Exo try to cross onto that point. Cookie is lagging behind enough.
Oblivione now rotated the point, actually used a Maywall to try to zone off the point, but an amplification matrix from Slay to give his team that opening through that Maywall. Both of the Ramachas soaking a ton of damage with the armor, creating both of those amp matrices to, or forcing both those amp matrices to fall eventually. Quartz trying to build towards that railgun shot and the overclock during the fight, and he's building it very, very quickly, but KSA on the side building that ultimate as well. They decide to go first. Quartz goes a bit too aggressive into Cookie's railgun shot. Nice work from Cookie without an ultimate to take down Quartz before Twisted Minds could use ultimates. They committed the beat drop and the annihilation from KSA. Now Vistola comes back knowing they have the advantage and walk forward with the blizzard from Maymon to reclaim the objective.
They're saving sound barrier as well for the overclock that's going to come through from Twisted Minds, because they can just go straight to point. Exo can't really contest it either, because if they group up, they're going to go straight into Yubi's Blizzard. So at the moment, we're just trying to see Exo at the moment, making sure that Twisted Minds don't get that long angle to be able to set up Quartz for an overclock to hit all of these players on Exo's side.
Twisted Minds come out the high ground, saving Yubi's Blizzard. They want to maybe take this fight on the point, so they're trying to pressure off Oblivione from the high ground, but there comes the overclock from Quartz to zone the rest of Oblivione towards that point, but a beat drop from Crispy gives them the counter engage, and it's Cookie yet again killing Slay. Canale does get frozen to the back line, and unfortunately by the Blizzard from Yubi, but Cookie again with the railgun shot. That's a 3K for him in this fight. Opens things, the door wide open now for Oblivione to hold on to this point and continue against Twisted Minds.
Oh, the positioning from Exo, it's perfect. They know that the overclock is coming. Like you said, they take that fight on the high ground. So when the overclock actually hits, they can all scurry into the cover of the point, sound barrier, and then aggressively push onto Twisted Minds. So even though that Blizzard catches onto Canal, the damage has already been done. Too many members of Twisted Minds are missing.
Cookie of old now coming through. Amp Matrix coming from Canale, and counter Amp Matrix from Slay on the low ground. Really, Oblivione have a big advantage with that, but Quartz with the railgun shot hiding in between the health pack with the immortality field gets the shot onto Canale, and now Vistola is just deep inside of Twisted Minds on the high ground, really trying to find a counter in terms of Quartz on the high ground, but he just can't. Slay there with the peel, and Twisted Minds reclaim that point.
They're going to have Annihilation as well as Soundbar, so a lot of sustainability installed to try and match and then exceed Exo's point percentage, as we are playing towards final fight territory for both of these teams. Twisted Minds just has to be very aware of the fact that Blizzard is going to be coming up for Maymon far faster than Yubi. That could be the difference maker.
Come out fast on the high ground, building the Blizzard like you said. Trying to counter it as Twisted Minds at the choke, making sure they can't walk out. Quartz already gets rid of Canale's immortality field. Blizzard comes through on a KSA, but he drops down below. Also with the Annihilation, still getting that charge. And not actually out of it just yet, so just kind of harassing this backline. Vistola went a bit too far forward, though, and is taken out by Slay. The beat drop not there to save Vistola in that fight, and Quartz with the overclock as well through the high ground to find Cookie. And this should give Twisted Minds the objective as well. Nobody else can touch now for Oblivione. And even though Cookie had some nice shots earlier on, it's Twisted Minds to take round 1.
Yeah, Maymon's Blizzard unfortunately does not actually catch KSA in the freeze. He's actually able to drop out of line of sight of it, so doesn't get frozen. Thus, they're not able to disengage that annihilation that they were trying to use the Blizzard to peel for. It keeps ticking away, and KSA is able to get Calyx the sound barrier, and from there, EXO are just not able to eject Twisted Minds off of the point fast enough. As we now head on to the next map. We said it could be a long series, we said it could be a close one. EXO definitely making it look a lot more competitive than I'm pretty sure chat were expecting given the percentages of those spreads.
Yeah, I mean, it was very, very close on that round number 1, and now obviously going to the second one. Twisted Minds now at the round advantage, right? Obviously, if they win this one, we're done with Nepal. Oblivione coming through the inside angle while Twisted Minds going through the main. Both teams kind of just poking out in the neutral fight. Pistola trying to zone out KSA. Also an aggressive Maywall from WMA on the backside. Also Immortality Field used by Slay. Cookie with the high ground angle as well, building up that railgun shot. The advantage so far is in Oblivione's side because they still have the Immortality Field cooldown, but it's Pistola to go down. No Immortality Field to save him. Canale, though, does take down Calyx, so that's at least one trade, but after you lose your tank, I'm not sure how you win a team fight. Quartz finds Cookie as well, and the objective is going in their favor. Fight number 1 already for Twisted Minds.
Yeah, when you lose that ram, the floodgates just open because that's what's keeping these players away from just grouping up and pushing aggressively. The fact that if they cluster, they're all going to get hit by the pommels, but when the ram is gone, so too is the threat of that cleave damage hitting all of these players. And now Twisted Minds have the advantage in terms of poke. EXO are going to have spent a lot of time safely rotating to challenge Quartz out of this space.
Cookie tries to contest the high ground, really doesn't have a lot of health here. Has to drop to the rest of his team. Goes down to 1 HP, but gets healed up by Canale. Meanwhile, Mamone finds Quartz through the amplification matrix. What a shot from him to open things in this fight. Immortality Field also used by Twisted Minds. Vastola trying to play on the outside. Wait out the Ant Matrix now. Will walk forward towards KSA. He does have his own annihilation, and they have a Blizzard from Yubi coming up, so they could recontest in this fight, and they do so with the annihilation to dive onto Vastola. Immortality Field gone, but Quartz and Yubi combine onto Vastola, Crispy, and WMamo with that Blizzard, and so far Twisted Minds are looking phenomenal.
The problem for Twisted Minds, though, is that was 3 ultimates dumped into one fight. EXO smartly see that Twisted Minds have extended all of those ultimates and hold on to theirs. They look for that soft reset. They're coming back in with far more aggression. The one thing they have to worry about is Quartz's overclock. If it hits before Crispy's sound barrier, EXO have to go back to spawn.
Yeah, we'll see if Crispy can get that off. Maywall all ready to zone off Pistola from the rest of his team. Now they walk in. Quartz holding on to the overclock onto the backside of the point. Now 80% incoming Blizzard from WMamo, but it's immediately zoned back. KSA does eventually get frozen, but he's already back into the safety net of his team. Meanwhile, Annihilation for Pistola to try to give them the point, but there's no kills just yet, which is horrific for Oblivione because they're running out of ultimates as they have to deal with Quartz on the rig test. They do claim that point, though, so that's very good for them so far, but now there's the overclock from Quartz. Meanwhile, beat drop to counter it on the opposite side. It's Slay to fall, so Oblivione is slowly working things in their favor. Eventually find Yubi as well, and they've run the ult down. Quartz eventually does find WMamo, but not after Oblivione has claimed this point and the kills.
Clutch sound barrier coming through from Crispy, actually able to beat off of the top of Yubi's Maywall, so he isn't line of sighted out of connection of it. Everyone on EXO side receives that extra armor, and as a result gets to stay alive through Quartz's sound barrier. And now EXO, with the ultimate advantage, have the means of being able to stall, but they're going to have to stall a heck of a lot of fights.
Twisted Minds now walk through Ant Matrix in the main, but it's walled off yet again by WMamo. Cookie over to this left side trying to build with the overclock. They are still contesting the point, though, with this Ant Matrix, and also Vastola is kind of playing that frontline pressure, zoning off. Twisted Minds forcing them to go towards that elephant side. Cookie still holding on to that overclock. Really wants to make this last fight. Twisted Minds, they don't get a fast fight here. This could spell the end for them, but now the overclock from Cookie to go aggressive. They don't have a lot of the positioning, but it doesn't matter. WMamo, what a shot onto Quartz yet again to give them that opening pick. Does Twisted Minds want to win this fight or take a quick reset? Looks like they're going to try to die fast and get a recontest.
That's absolutely clutch. The fact that Cookie's able to come in with that kill before Twisted Minds are able to actually pull the trigger on KSA's annihilation, because Canale and Crispy both have already expended ultimates. They don't have sustain to be able to keep the point in their control. Those picks allows EXO to eject Twisted Minds and really start to push back into ultimate economy.
94% on the board now for Oblivione. We're entering last fight territory. Can Twisted Mind touch before it gets to 99? It looks like they do. KSA drops to the point. UB still has that Blizzard. I mean, they have the ultimate advantage on the retest Twisted Minds. They drop the Blizzard. UB dies, though, to Cookie with the railgun shot as we go into overtime. KSA attempts to zone out that back with the Annihilation, but it's a counter Annihilation from Pistola as well, but a beat drop from Twisted Mind keeps them in it. Also, they have Quartz's overclock, but does he find the value? They've potentially reclaimed the point, and Quartz has the high ground. He's taken down Canale, who dropped his immortality field, but Quartz has taken the backline out of the equation, and they've recontested, reclaimed the point as well. Nobody else is now here for Oblivione, and Twisted Minds have done it on DePaul with the recontest to take the 2-0. That's map number 1 for Twisted Minds.
Oh, that's so tragic for EXO. Canale died as Ant Matrix ticked into play. We said that these DPS players, these Sojans, would be the standouts. They've been the ones to come with these clutch kills when their teams have needed them. That is the power of the Sojan. It's very much like a Baptiste, right? When Bap first released, everyone was up in arms about the fact that Immortality Field was on a cooldown and not his ultimate. It's the same for the Sojan. You immediately get the ability to be able to take one of those squishies down without your ultimate having to be in play, to the point that we're even seeing teams having to track to see when that railgun lights up, and they know that that one shot is in motion.
I mean, Moxie, I don't know if you're excited as I am for this series, because my God, it seems like we're in for one, because after Cookie really has been putting on a performance like he has in the past. However, Twisted Minds with Quartz really doing a great job on the Sojourn. I think we're in for a good one. Also, you know, we have to mention these May players too. Maymon really opening things for Oblivione when at times Cookie was kind of shut down. And then also the support play on both sides. Obviously, Crispy and Kelix with perfectly timed beat drops. Slay being able to deal with his own, you know, pressure from the other DPS on the other side, and also Canale doing the same thing. I mean, this is a close series so far, Moxie, even though, you know, obviously a 2-0 victory on that map number 1 for Twisted Minds could spell, you know, disaster for Oblivione. But obviously, I mean, we have to see what happens next on map number 2, Moxie. I mean, what's your biggest takeaway from the poll? What even happened there to give Twisted Minds a quick 2-0 over Oblivione on that first map?
I mean, again, it's just the fact that they're able to take Canale down, and they'd already picked up so much point percentage at the early stages of that second sub-map that there was just no time for EXO to look to punish the ultimates that had come through from Twisted Minds, find that soft reset, and come back in when they had more ultimates on their side. It very much was, we just have to stall on this point for as long as possible, build up ultimates, and hope that we're all still alive. But as you saw, when Sojourn and May are in play, players just go down in the absolute blink of an eye, and we were seeing both Sojans taking advantage of how fast they were able to zip around all of those sidelines, because every single time you turned around, a Sojan was just standing right behind you, and it would take just a little bit too long for those Rams to actually realize that's where they were playing from. We would see the zone try to come through and punish as they power slid away, but the damage had already been done. So I think if either of these teams are going to be able to mark the Sojan's locations a little bit faster, we're going to see a significant advantage for one of them come into play.
I 100% agree, and obviously for the next map, it's going to be Blizzard World, and this is a map that really enables some of these really fast-paced play styles, right? Obviously with the Sojourn in play, potentially it could be good. Also, you know what's interesting, Moxie, is we're so far not seeing any substitutes either, you know, from the side of Twisted Minds to really sub in, you know, their Pharah player, their Pharah specialist on a map like Blizzard World. Do you think that could be a potential play, that could be a difference maker? Or, I mean, it seems like Twisted Minds are pretty confident in their Sojourn composition on pretty much every map.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're just confident on the mirror. Like, they're a very confident team. When we talked to them in the interviews, when we asked them, how do you feel about going up against this composition? Do you feel a little bit more worried? They always come back and say, no, because we're the better team at those specific heroes. And the fact that Vestola isn't actually getting to play that diva, is instead having to go onto the Ram to mirror KSA, when we already know that Twisted Minds are a lot more confident in their Ramatra goes to show that EXO were really having to play Twisted Minds game. And that I think is actually going to start coming in with the mind games too, because this is the advantage of Twisted Minds. Like you said, they have the ability to be able to entirely chameleon that composition based on the players that they have subbed in. And so teams that are going up against them have to practice for so many variations of compositions that it really eats into the hours that they have. If they're not getting as many of those hours to be able to play these compositions, it's going to be a struggle when it comes to the actual series itself.
I mean, it's so interesting because, you know, obviously looking at how they got here, I would say a lot of what Twisted Minds have done was, you know, get a lot of what's led to their success rather was their Pharah compositions, right? I think that's really what's kept them in it. But Quartz really kind of slowly got integrated in the lineup as the season went on, and it seems like they've fully transitioned into being, you know, your traditional Overwatch team that just runs the quote-unquote meta instead of maybe a bit more cheesy compositions, as people would say, with a Pharah or something like a Junkrat, even with the likes of Aw Yeah being in there. Now, for Twisted Minds, obviously, Moxie, I think, like you said, they do have that RAM advantage. But for the side of Oblivione, what do you think the difference is in their two playstyles? Like, why do you think that KSA so far has been, you know, as dominant as he has been on the Ramatra? Meanwhile, Vistola, is it more of a team thing? Does the team kind of have to play around Vistola a bit more to maybe counter what Twisted Minds are doing?
I think it's just experience, right? This is something that we talked about in the regular season for a little bit. KSA was one of the first, if not the first tank player in this region to actually play Ramatra. In fact, I think he was the first player that we actually saw field Ramatra way back on Antarctic Peninsula. When they tried to run it, it didn't go well, granted, because they ran it with a Lucio and a Kiriko, and we saw very quickly that Ramatra was just too fragile. But now that teams have really clocked on to the fact that Ramatra and Baptiste are just a match made in heaven. You have that burst, you have that lamp as well to be able to save the Ramatra so that when your Nemesis form comes back onto cooldown, you're still going to be able to play defensive, even if that lamp is on cooldown, and cycle those very similar to the way that we saw Winston and Zarya match their cooldowns all the way back in China and Korea when we were still on Overwatch 1, and we had the amazing synergies of off tanks and main tanks. It really is something that allows Twisted Minds this synergy and confidence to be able to play to the tempo of KSA because it's something that they're already versed in. It's something that they've been practicing for a very long time.
Fair points all around. I think that overall, you know, for it does, because yeah, it's the experience, like you said, because it doesn't really seem like Oblivione are necessarily that bad. And you know, I like how you mentioned the Kiriko being subbed out for Baptiste. I think that's really been a big transition, and I think you're 100% correct. And I think Baptiste is one of those heroes as well, which we've seen through Kanale and Slay, kind of being these expert Baptiste players that are incredibly talented in figuring out how to use those cooldowns, right? Because at times we saw even Kanale maybe use Lamp a bit too early, or Slay at times do the same thing. And I think, I don't know, Moxie, it seems like with Baptiste, really it's cooldown management, right? Because generally, at least when I played Baptiste, when I played for the Atlanta Reign, a big mistake that I was making was I would always use Regenerative Burst incredibly early, which that obviously is on, what is it, like a 13, 14, 15 second cooldown or something around that range. And really that cooldown is super important. Maybe a lot of Baptiste players don't really understand that. Like, that Regenerative Burst is an AoE heal that really can, you know, equalize things in terms of that department. Obviously, for both of these teams, both Baptiste kind of understand that now. The character's been out for so long. A lot of these guys are super, super good on the Baptiste, and really that is also enabled through having super good Lucio players too, right, Marksy? I mean, obviously we saw Crispy and Kelix with some perfectly timed beat drops and engages. For the side of Oblivione, I'll try to bring things back around here for us, Moxie. For their side, do you think that you should play a bit more aggressive into Vistola's playstyle, or is it better to maybe try to match the likes of Twisted Minds and really figure out things that way? Or are you kind of just outmatched by KSA at the moment on the Ramatra?
So here's the thing, because they've integrated Sojourn into this composition, it adds another element to the tempo where you don't want to take a fight against a Sojourn who's going to have that railgun alt fire up, and you want to wait for your Sojourn to be able to match them too, because it boxes your opponent in terms of positioning. Ramatra is all about that sort of tempo tank playstyle. When he first released it, I was like, what does tempo tank even mean? How are we supposed to really figure out how to play him? It's a lot of rubber banding. It's a lot of knowing when you want to poke and sort of hole up, very similar to old school Orisa, where if you're new in Overwatch 2, you don't know this, but in Overwatch 1, Orisa was a bunker tank. She would drop a shield, she would find herself a corner, and she would stay there. She would stay her ground. It's very similar to that, but it's sort of a combination of Orisa 1 and Orisa 2, where you have that bunker playstyle, and then when you have that aggression and you want to go for those pummels, those cleaves, you go into Nemesis and you just push forward. And if you have a Sojourn who has that alt fire against a Sojourn who doesn't, you're going to have a lot more freedom with that Ramatra having to worry less about that poke, because remember, when you're in Nemesis, you don't get the shield. So if you take that poke damage as you're aggressing in and you have to burn those cooldowns the way that we were seeing things like Lamp being pulled out incredibly early, it's a lot more punishing in the long run.
That's interesting, because, you know, as well, for if you're noticing this too, Moxie, it seems like this Ramatra just like never dies. Like he just runs in, blocks, gets the armor, Nemesis form. He just like doesn't die first at all. You know, both Vistola and KSA just run in, take space, use Nemesis form, and then slowly just back out of there. It kind of feels similar to, if you remember the Jotes composition, Moxie, that we talked about. Obviously, me and you had a private conversation about the Jotes, you know, composition with the Sojourn May. I mean, we got everybody's here. It's the same except what, no Kiriko and no
Kiriko.
No Junker Queen. So kind of similar playstyle where nobody seems to die until, you know, a nice shot from a May or a Sojourn or something.
Yeah, and we should clarify, the reason that we're not seeing Junker Queen is that we're not playing on Junker Queen buff patch either. This is not live patch. This is Brigitte ultra wide.
Brigitte ultra
they literally
patch,
just like took the shield size and they synthesized it.
IMAX Brigitte is in the lobby. Well, actually, we haven't seen her though. You know, it's interesting that really teams have gone away from it. Maybe do you think that the Brigitte composition or Brigitte in general is a bit too slow potentially for the current meta?
It's because Brigitte comes with that Ana, and we've talked about the fact that this synergy with the Baptiste and the Ramatra is just peak at the moment. Yes, Ana with the nano boost can give a lot of aggression, but when the cooldowns are out, and especially the fact that you don't want to have to use a nano boost in case your Ramatra is low, that's an entire ultimate as opposed to hefty cooldown, sure, but still just a normal cooldown coming through from that Baptiste. Plus, I mean, he's got a primary, which is a range, so of course Ramatra's going to do incredibly well when a window is up for that BAP.
Yeah, interesting. Well, guys, unfortunately, the match has not started just yet, so we have to be right back for a little bit as we set up the match. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back after a short break for the matchup, which is going to be on Blizzard World.
Are your Dragon Blades missing the mark?
Do you want to go from a bad Genji to a pro Genji?
Looking for that next big thing to rank up and improve your gameplay?
Well, look no further than our brand new Overwatch Contenders Genji skin! With our exclusive custom-made hoodie, your Genji gameplay will automatically be taken up a notch.
And you'll look more stylish as you team wipe fight after fight.
Just look at that stitching.
To acquire your sick Genji threads,
so you can destroy in ranked and dominate all your enemies.
Dude, chill.
Sorry, man, I'm just getting into it.
All you have to do is connect your Battle.net account to Twitch.
After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress,
letting you claim each magnificent offering, including the keen blade of Overwatch Contenders Genji.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Contenders playoffs between Twisted Minds and Oblivione is the matchup for you guys that we have in the upper bracket. Obviously, Moxie, this has been incredibly close matchup, at least on Nepal. It was incredibly intense, and things have kind of been a little bit slow leading into the next map because the players, obviously discussing things, like ping and all these really, really intense discussions that happen behind the scenes, behind the doors. But obviously, we finally have that map ready to go for you guys. We're going to be heading into Blizzard World in just a moment, Moxie. And obviously, that previous map, Nepal, was incredibly close. Maybe what have we learned, I guess, leading back into maybe refresh our viewers here what's going on Blizzard World?
I mean, keep an eye on these Sojourns. For real. I think that's the big takeaway because, again, we talked about it. It was incredibly close. It was a very intense matchup. And I don't think the 2-0 on Nepal really sells how close some of those fights were. If we didn't have some of those picks coming through from Quartz very early on in those fights, especially that clutch pick onto Canal before Amp can come into play, we could very well have been headed off towards Sanctum. So moving forward, again, I really do feel like it's going to be this chess matchup between Cookie and Quartz to see who can find more value.
Let's see who flips the board first. Twisted Minds, obviously, on their offense. So really could play any composition and maybe even Widowmaker. Guys, if you want to talk to us, make sure you use our hashtag OWPTP2023. Please get us some tweets out there so we can show your tweets live on the broadcast. We'd love to see what you're saying in these matchups, obviously, for Oblivione and Twisted Minds. Been playing the same thing, Moxie, with the Sojourn and with the Mei. Looks like they're playing a similar composition again.
Yeah, again, very confident in this composition like we discussed. It was an incredibly close matchup. Twisted Minds on the attack, however, could change things, but I feel like we're just going to see that mirror because they're just as confident in this mirror matchup. If they can keep EXO having to go for that mirror, they're going to be incredibly happy because they think they're better at playing it.
No Widowmaker this time. Just go for the fast TP out of the spawn and come through this bottom left angle where that vending machine lies. Quartz, meanwhile, going through main. A lot of these Sojourns kind of just take off angles as both teams, or Twisted Minds, now take some space. Oblivione just looking for the one shot as they walk in.
Oh, really good bait coming through, actually pushing EXO, like you said, off of that high ground, forcing them towards the point. And this is where Twisted Minds can really take advantage of KSA getting play aggressive and push EXO off.
Yeah, great job for him to try to take that space, but Cookie comes from this outside angle. They notice that Sojourn's over there, but immediately falls back to the rest of his team. KSA goes incredibly low, and then the railgun shot is there to find the final blow, but Yubi does take down Crispy. However, it might not result in much because on the front line, Vistola's nice and healthy until just about now, but Maymon's found Slay. They use the immortality field from Canale just in the nick of time to save him, and now this is just stagger kills onto Twisted Minds. Fantastic first fight for Oblivione.
They're going to have Amp Matrix up as well, so if Twisted Minds try to just come through main, they're walking straight into all of that damage, and this is allowing EXO to excel and accelerate all of these ultimate charges that Twisted Minds are going to be behind in.
Twisted Minds now regrouping in the main. Slay will have that Amp Matrix, and as will Canale, but it's W Maymon with the Blizzard. In just a moment, does get poked down low, so ducks back down around the corner. Also, Regenerative Burst from Canale is used. Now the Amp Matrix into Twisted Minds, but a Blizzard from Yubi. It's perfectly timed into W Maymon, but they've been zoned out. Both Immortality Fields used. Canales is down. Counter Blizzard now onto Yubi, who used the Ice Block earlier to go in with his Blizzard, but Pistola does fall in the front line. Now here's the Overclock from Quartz into the back line. He's been able to find one onto Pistola, but can they find any more? It looks like they're against the beat drop now from Crispy, who trades back Quartz, and over the top side, it's Cookie again with the railgun shot. Finds Kellex. KSA now is just alone with Slay. Towards that point, they've fallen already. Slay goes down. Cookie also connects on to Slay in a last-second rig test with ultimates, sustains Oblivione.
They do manage to pick up 2 ticks of the point, however, because yes, the overclock from Cookie is absolutely shredding these members of Twisted Minds, but he's having to play outside of the point because he can't go into the annihilation coming out from KSA. So 1 tick left for Twisted Minds to be able to push us into the payload part of the map, and EXO don't have any ultimates to be able to try and sustain on the point at the moment.
It's gonna be rough. Slay, though, may be able to be that member that Twisted Minds need with Slay's amplification matrix. Today also building up his, and both teams kind of poking out. until they build some ultimates, or you just find an opening pick with Kelix and KSA. Great work from them to take down Mimone earlier on. Now the Ant Matrix has been able, but it might be too little too late though. Crispy has taken down Canel Quartz over the back flank with Coastal and took down 2 with no ultimate either. They've reclaimed this point and finally get the objective to move on to that second phase. Now 3 minutes and 20 seconds. And Blizzard
They're
World.
going to have an advantage as well when it comes to controlling space in this next fight, because Canale actually tried to use Amp to be able to push the healing onto those members of EXO to sustain themselves on that point until Maimon comes back with Blizzard. And as a result, there's going to be a domino effect onto Twisted Mind's confidence to be able to hold these long angles, since they have Amp and EXO don't.
Quartz kind of playing an aggressive angle on top of the railgun. Meanwhile, Oblivione want a fast fight around the backside. They're running into an Ant Matrix, though. Now they've been split. The cart still not in their control either, so it's continually pushing forward. As long as nobody dies, I suppose Oblivione are fine with this, so they're going to regroup back to the high ground, potentially drop with the Blizzard, but Twisted Minds are ready with their railgun shots. No deaths just yet, though. No pickoffs. In fact, it's Oblivione that drop first. Incoming Blizzard towards that cart side just to zone back Twisted Minds. KSA got frozen. Immortality Field not there in time to save him, or rather gets deleted so fast. Now Blizzard on the inside finds Canale too, but Vistola trades it back. UB falls even though he was trying to follow up on his Blizzard, and now it's just slaying Quartz alive in this fight as KSA does hit that respawn. They're still getting the cart time though. Forward they go, but eventually they'll find Stagger on the Slay, and Oblivione win another fight.
Yeah, a lot of distance, however, picked up for Twisted Minds, like you said, and they've got the overclock. They're going to have the soundbar to allow themselves to push aggressively. But what they don't have is the long distance angle. Here we're going to get to see Maimon actually using that Blizzard, walling off KSA's retreat so they can just tread the ram. And again, without that tank, Twisted Minds just don't have that large body to be able to absorb the hits, as we're seeing a very fast contest.
Yeah, overclock from Quartz. They come through the top. No kills, just that body shot. And the Cookie, knowing he's there, now drops towards Crispy, but no deaths just yet. A great job avoiding that overclock damage. And now the recontest comes through from Oblivione, but Vistola, does he live? Does get the Immortality Field, but it's Quartz to eventually find W. Maimon. Maybe too many ultimates here with not enough recontest from Oblivione, as the ults were too many to deal with for Oblivione.
Twisted Minds, they know full well that Cookie has the overclock, and they do everything in their power to push aggressively onto EXO before the defense has a time to be able to react and use that overclock to push Twisted Minds into that form of hesitation where it's going to find the most value. They've got it now, however, for this contest, but they're not able to tap in time, and they just have to die with it up.
Cookie goes down too, and you know the objective was claimed, so maybe ill-advised Ant Matrix in this fight. They've made it messy though. They found Quartz, could potentially find more. Crispy going for the 1v1 on UB in the spawn, so the fight is divulged into a chaotic mess. Crispy eventually falls to UB, but it seems like Oblivione are fine fighting in such an awkward position, trying to find KSA. No kills just yet for them either. Fall back towards that cart. They do have the high ground to contest from. They're still finding kills somehow. Eventually, W. Maimon falls even though he had the ice block off. So does Vistola. No more ultimates committed. Cookie will find Quartz, but the cart is back in Twisted Mind's possession.
Yeah, but they did burn a good amount of time off of the clock, even though they'd lost Cookie. So that Ant Matrix is actually worth it, because Canale is 50% away from his next one, and Twisted Minds now have to push this cart and deal with the poke coming through from EXO, who are ahead in terms of ults.
Yeah, that is a good point. Building that Baptiste ultimate so fast. Now an overclock comes through from Cookie on the far side into a Blizzard as well from UB and W. Maimon. Nice kill from Cookie, but KSA does trade back with his Annihilation. UB gets traded by the other Ramatra's Annihilation. Canale's also traded back Quartz, who found Crispy on the back side. And now Kelix trying to go a bit too aggressive to find a kill. Is not able to find anything. KSA also gets staggered. Now a minute left. Oblivione win that fight.
This is all about the mind games. EXO are literally playing magician tricks on Twisted Minds. They're sleight of handing the entirety of their team barring Cookie so that no one realizes where the Sojourn is until the damage is already too late. However, EXO behind in terms of aggressive ultimates now have to play defensively.
30 seconds left. Ant Matrix used as well onto KSA, who gets that Immortality Field to now back up. They also have an overclock to recontest with. Ant Matrix, though, first. Duck down around the corner to avoid the Ant Matrix. Now Oblivione goes. They did use the Immortality Field, knowing that Quartz is just waiting. With this overclock beat drop engaged now from Oblivione, is able to find Quartz before he could use the overclock, and now 20 seconds left. Oblivione looked to find some staggered kills towards the spawn, but Twisted Minds are regrouping, waiting, even though there's not a lot of time left.
EXO are going to have Annihilation, Blizzard, and Overclock in overtime, however, and Twisted Minds might have to use the only ult they have just to touch the card.
Overclock used from Quartz now against the Blizzard, though, or against the Mei wall to zone him out. Quartz goes a bit on a wide angle now into an Annihilation Immortality field here. Now, Quartz does find Kanale. Nice work from him, kind of slithering into that backline to find Kanale. That's a crucial opening pick as KSA now regroups towards the cart, tries to get that sustained damage there as well. Cookie now on that right side flank. Looks like he's not going to commit any ultimates either. They're just trying to stagger towards this payload. As overtime ticks down, Twisted Minds have control of the cart.
And that's the problem. XO understand that there's another fight left, and Twisted Minds having to use both the Overclock and Annihilation aren't going to have them back. XO can just come back in and eject Twisted Minds in OT.
Hart slowly pushes up the ramp now, heading towards that final destination. Ant Matrix used on the card as well. Blizzard, though, or the wall, zones off the Ant Matrix. Beat drop is here from Kellex. Cookie commits the Overclock even into a beat drop. A lot of these ultimates don't really get a lot of value in these fights, but in this fight they do, because Pistola on the front line with the Annihilation is there and nobody else can touch because they're zoned back. They get stopped before the final checkpoint. Twisted Minds with 2 on the board will now rotate over the defensive side.
It is a large chunk, however, of points that they're able to pick up in overtime because they were able to find so much value. Annihilation claiming control of the payload, and Quartz getting to freely move around with that Overclock instead of having to be anchored to the objective, so that OT doesn't run out. Good synergy from Twisted Minds, but EXO just sit it out. They wait for the ultimates to be gone from Twisted Minds side and then regroup, knowing that they're going to be able to just chunk through this team, and Twisted Minds don't have the time to be able to hide from all of the damage coming through. This wall was just absolutely gorgeous. There's another moment, actually, where they're able to use Maymon's wall alongside Vestola's zone to catch onto all of the players on Twisted Minds side and take them out. It's really mean, and the slow comes through almost to the point where you feel like they're stuck in a blizzard, because that's just how good the synergy from Maymon alongside Vestola's utilities are.
Yeah. So far, I mean, W Maymon's having a fantastic game. No. God dang it. Another guy named Dustin as well. I appreciate it. Coming through on Twitter. I'm on TV. Quick post Moira. Jesus, is that Moira? I thought it was Roadhog for a second. I'm not going to lie. I thought like the right... Am I being mean? Am I being... Listen, I thought that was Roadhog for a moment.
She's got like the hair flat. I know. The mini Super Saiyan cowlicks and then the little eye patch.
I see it. Okay, by the way, pedal real quick off the spot. I see it, but at first glance, I thought it was a hog, and then after about half a second, I was like, oh yeah, that is Moira, isn't it? But enough being mean to this person's drawing. I'm sure that's probably way better than anything I could draw. Oblivione now walking against Twisted Minds, who are back at the point. Usually both of these Mays and Sojourns have been able to find opening picks. We'll see if they could do it. Opening up, May wall on that right side to zone off. Quartz was trying to take that off angle. They're aware of it, so they're looking towards Quartz, maybe trying to force that cooldown out of him to force him into maybe a position that is not so favorable. May wall used there from Yubi to zone off this backline. Pistola takes a lot of damage, and so does W Maymon, so Immortality field from Kanale is there, and seems like they're losing the cooldown fight at the moment as Twisted Minds take full advantage of it. KSA is really doing a great job building towards that ultimate, already double Pistola's ultimates. They also run on KSA, though, in this backside, and they find him. They do trade back one. A very aggressive play from Oblivione, knowing they were down on the ult game, do deal with Twisted Minds on the inside angle of the health pack to take advantage of Twisted Minds being there.
I mean, it's just prime fighting space for Ramatra, right? That space is so enclosed that pummel's going to connect onto so many of those players, and without an Immortality field to save you, you're going to go down incredibly quickly. But Twisted Minds, speaking of quickly, they could go for a quick recontest, not on the point itself, but they're going to have control of Choke, which is why Yubi's Blizzard is really going to come into play.
See if he builds it this fight, or if W Memo can counter it rather in this one. And Cookie on the right side could get walled off. He gets stuck in the May wall. Are you kidding me? They eventually break it. We see that on the
side though. He will survive.
He does survive. And Matrix in the main side. Block already from Yubi in the main as well. Eventually will be forced out of it, but it uses the May wall to zone away from that damage from the Ant Matrix. Eventually it falls now in Annihilation. Recontest from KSA. Does he walk all the way out? He has to deal with the May wall from W Memo, and they break it incredibly quickly, but eventually the ultimate runs out. Now a Blizzard from Yubi onto Vistola to maybe continue their ultimates forward onto Oblivione, who maybe didn't expect that Blizzard to come through. Now, potentially a stagger kill on the WMAMO. Does have those heals there, but it's Cookie to find Quartz over the top side. Potentially could find more, but eventually will regroup towards his team, knowing they have the opening pick and the spawns are a bit far, a bit distant for Twisted Minds. And a bit of a scary position as Oblivione now come back into this fight.
Still got choke though up for Twisted Minds, and as a result we are seeing EXO being just a little bit more cautious, waiting until that shield is on cooldown so Cookie can just chunk through all of the players sitting behind that amp.
Blizzard utilized. Unfortunately, it's peeled off, though, from Twisted Minds. They fall back towards the health pack side, but it's Annihilation to continue the aggression from Bastola, as well as the overclocking, of course, to potentially counter it, and it works. Nothing there in terms of support ultimates to save Bastola. Crispy did use the beat drop, but unfortunately, it does not save him. Kanale also goes down to Quartz, and Twisted Minds now look to potentially get a little bit of a spawn camp onto Oblivione.
Quartz is thinking about that off angle, but decides better of it, and they are going to pull back. They understand that that choke is a lot more important. Having that high ground in their control too forces EXO into splitting. They're going to try and rotate to the point all the way alongside this mega health pack room, but Twisted Minds just have the means of being able to cut them off at the pass.
Cookie a bit separated from his team, tries to take an off angle. Now the Ant Matrix on the main side. UB found Crispy, who tried to go a bit aggressive on that May and Lucio on the back side. Crispy unfortunately went down. About 3 members of the side of Twisted Minds, also an Ant Matrix used in a lost team fight. Twisted Minds have an ult advantage as well, leading to the next one.
Yeah, EXO just don't get the sight lines because they're trying to push through all of these horrible angles where Twisted Minds are already set up to poke and spam them down. They're not getting to exchange fire for fire, and as a result, their ultimate economy is so far behind.
Walking back in, Blueby does have that Blizzard as well, and that ult economy, like you said, really is going to make a massive difference as UB drops in the Blizzard, zones back Pistola. Twisted Minds now understand he's caught out, potentially go coastal on him on the mini, almost a boop off the map, but Tanks, unfortunately, a bit too stubborn in that fight. Quartz also eventually will find Pistola as Oblivione just try to regroup, get Pistola back in this fight now.
Yeah, bounce resistance built into that armor for Ramatra, as well as all of those other tanks, and it is good because if you didn't have that knockback resistance, KSA would have been in the drink and Twisted Minds would not be able to control this choke as stalwartly as they have been able to. Mimi's gonna have a Blizzard, however, so we are seeing Twisted Minds pulling a little bit further back.
Oh, but it's Quartz again, gets Kanale with just a traditional railgun shot. Didn't have to use the overclock. Oblivione now rotates to the high ground without him, and no so worth the support ultimates either because Kanale went down. Bastola uses the Annihilation. Cookie takes a body shot, needs some heals desperately, but no Baptista's here, so eventually he falls to the Annihilation. Over the top angle, WMAMO dropped the Blizzard on the KSA, so that's something that might enable them to walk forward here now against Twisted Minds, who just used the Annihilation. They're trying to find UB on the front line, who just delays himself. Slay also, so quick reset on the cart for Twisted Minds, but so much time has been burned off the clock already.
They're through the choke, however, and that is one of those problems. That's why Twisted Minds allowed that point to slip through so that they could set up around that really problematic angle. And EXO now are actually having to play a lot more aggressive than they would like against some of these poke comps to take that high ground away from Twisted Minds so that, of course, doesn't get that same power.
Twisted Minds now walks through over the bridge onto Pistola, and they want to go aggressive on Pistola, but they're now against an Ant Matrix. Quartz also commits the overclock, but both beat drops on both sides mean not a lot of damage to go through until just now. Quartz, nice shots from him, but Cookie saves Pistola's life before he went down, but eventually Kelix does find him. Both overclocks finding value, but now KSA is on the low, pummeling WMAMO with Kelix. They eventually find him as well. Now it's just stagger kills. Slay finds his counterpart. The cart's still pushing forward, but no C9 just today. Cookie looks to try to jump off the map, but Slay finds him before he does. Now 20 seconds left, Moxie, and they're down in ultimates. Oblivione, a bit scary for them now.
They're still down Cookie. Cookie got picked so late that he's only now respawned, so they have 11 seconds, and look at Twisted Minds, obstacle after obstacle to be able to touch this payload.
They walk bottom left, but now their position is known. They have to walk all the way around to the payload. 2 seconds, 1 second. They're there to touch the payload, but they don't! Are you kidding me? They don't even touch the payload. They don't even touch the payload last second. Twisted Minds now go up 2 over Oblivione.
It looked like it was either a knock or just not being able to walk through the disruptor shot coming through from Quartz in time, but they're not able to touch. And this is the problem. This is actually why that pick from Cookie to save and elongate that fight actually works against EXO, because it means that he gets taken out so late in comparison to everybody else. Twisted Minds literally played the Baby Diva stall where they allow Cookie to almost get as close as being able to throw himself off of the edge to be able to reset with the rest of the team. This stall right here is what allows them to stop EXO from actually having the time to be able to touch that cart. They have to wait the full 30 seconds of a respawn. They can't go until that Sojourn is respawning because of the burst damage that you need in that overtime to be able to push Twisted Minds away from controlling all of those angles. And as a result, no one gets to tap onto the payload.
It was a bit of a domino effect, and now Twisted Minds are up 2 over Oblivione. They're in a great spot to continue on forward through this winner's bracket to make it towards that final. We'll see if they can close it out, or if Oblivione can kind of regroup, mentally adjust. But guys, we'll be going to a short break. When we come back, we'll see you for that map number 3.
Tracer has quickly become one of the most popular heroes in high-level Overwatch 2. It takes insane mechanical skill, cerebral game sense, and ice in your veins to make impact plays with her, but these players make it look easy.
Maimon and Vestal are just playing off of each other perfectly.
W Maimon, by the way, found one who built that Transcendent. And a pulse bomb connects onto both Fuki and Turkey. W Maimon on this map on Havana truly has been next level.
And just as their eyes glance away, a pulse bomb connects to the back of their head. Kanale and Cookie hit the dirt.
Rocket trying. Rocket could be a hero in moments like these.
Rocket saved the day again.
Rocket's gonna chase him out too. Oh, and he Tracer gaps him. Yeah, Rocket's that guy right now.
Woohoo, guys, the mid-season madness is now around the corner, guys. June 15th through the 17th. Make sure to go to overwatchleague.com to get all of your information on the mid-season madness. I'm sure that is going to be absolutely wild. The Overwatch League this season has been so fun, and obviously it all combines into this mid-season madness to have this tournament in the middle of the year, so make sure to check that out at overwatchleague.com. Meanwhile, in our matchup in Contenders, Moxie, Oblivione, and Twisted Minds now will be going to the map number 3, and we saw a bit of a bad C9 on that previous map.
Yeah, we talked about it. If you're new to Overwatch, the term C9 means that unfortunately the objective is just not touched. We have backcaps, which I don't know what's worse. C9s or backcaps. C9's kind of forgivable when we move from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2. This is something that you and I have talked about on length. They used to have like that off-tank role where you would have something like a D.Va being able to boost and touch that card to keep it in play as quickly as possible. And obviously with the move from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, we saw one of those tanks taken off of the roles. And as a result, for the first couple of weeks, so many ladder numbers, Dustin. So many.
I mean, it's just, you're right. It just happens more in Overwatch 2 with less players on the field. The objective is not as easy to touch, but the next map is going to be Shambali Monastery. And Moxie, this one in particular, obviously, whenever there's an objective, there's the payload, you always have to touch it, right? I think you think that we wouldn't need to explain that to people, but, you know, obviously at times professional players even, you know, forget to touch the payload. Sometimes you're a bit overconfident, right? It does feel like, you know, you're a bit of I don't know, this is probably a bad analogy, but you're kind of like an octopus, right? You just like think you're as the head of the octopus is the team, like you expect your tentacles to be able to touch that payload, but the moment you cut off one of them, I guess this really doesn't make any sense either, because octopuses have 8 arms, right? Not 6, but
yeah, they have 8.
Anyway, we're talking about an octopus that had a few of its arms chopped off, and now even more were chopped off. So really, you know, a lot of these teams have a hard time touching that payload just because obviously now you're down that member. And Shambali Monastery is another map with the payload, Moxie. So I don't think we have to remind the teams, but that might also be in play in this next map. I think this map is so fun. It's so interesting because a lot of the angles feel very, very like long at points, right? A lot of these points. This map is known as kind of a defensive map, Moxie, right? Like, why is that? Why do you think Shambali Monastery is so hard to cap out? Is it just because the map is very, very long and a lot of these angles favor the defensive side, or are respawns too close? Like, what's the reason for this map being so defensive-sided?
So it's not just the long angles, it's also the really harsh corners. This is something that we've seen, especially Ram versus Ram, Rhine versus Rhine. A lot of the time, you can't really take the fight as an attacking team because, well, you look at point A, long angle, high ground, immediately gifted to the defense. You win that first fight. Guess what? Corner, really sharp corner. 2 in a row of them, in fact. And then when you're just about to push that payload into the checkpoint, high ground is available for the defense. And if you lose that fight, or even if you win the fight, but you lose any fight afterwards when you head into B, same high ground angle, immediate angle as well into respawning players, forcing them into some of these really long rotations, and it just runs the clock down incredibly quickly. But this is, however, a map, like you said, which is about those long lines of sight. So this is a map you choose if you want to put your DPS in the driving seat. And EXO, they've shown. We know that Cookie can hit the shots. We've seen Cookie being able to keep pace with Quartz throughout this entire series. This is where so much pressure now comes onto him, because not only with the power slide do you have the ability to be able to take those off angles and those rotations unnoticed, you also have the damage and the space to be able to really put that distance into play.
You know, obviously we have a bit of a fan for Twisted Minds via our hashtag OWPTP2023. Appreciate the support. I'm sure Twisted Minds loves to see their fans talking about them on Twitter. And for Twisted Minds, obviously on their offensive side, maybe teasing the Bastion. Unfortunately, this time they're not Bird Ring. Oblivione rotating towards the cart. They want to get that first fight incredibly early here.
I mean, no surprises. They've got both a Mei and a Ramatra. Whether or not they're going to go for the full unnoticed play, or if they're just going to try and wall off one of those archers, because they're anticipating Twisted Minds to come into something like a Widowmaker. Right? You can already see Cookie and Maimon trying to play out of this line of sight for Quartz, but everyone from Twisted Minds is doing a very good job of keeping away from Quartz at the moment.
Goodbye. Punished for playing the Widow. Sorry. Crispy, nice work from him, but goes incredibly low. Does have the heals from Kanale on the backside. Hits those shots. And quick respawn for Quartz now. Gets him back towards that Sojourn. They come through, but that's already 30 seconds now off the clock for Twisted Minds. May wall as well to zone off the back line. KSA into the pummel form, trying to force the ice block. Now does so. Tumbles back into Vistola to try to stay with this team here, but the land comes through. Immortality Field on both sides. Kanales actually goes down. Twisted Minds kind of low here, but they still take down Vistola, who is aggressive towards that front pillar side. Kelix, though, does get traded by W. Mamo and Yubi trying to find the backline, but it's Cookie to find his counterpart. Yubi, though, does eventually find Kanale. KSA also on the Cookie, so trades back and forth. As long as you have KSA up, though, Twisted Mind should feel confident. Crispy goes to the payload just to die. Nice work for Oblivione, already 1 minute and 10 seconds off the clock.
Yeah, I mean, trades are always going to be able to favor the attacking team because your respawns are just so much closer on that first fight. It's why when you go for spawn holes on places like Havana and Shambali, they're incredibly punishing, even if you quote-unquote win the fight, but lose a couple of players, the attacking team just gets to regroup so much faster. But talking about defense, we're going to see those harsh corners now come into play.
ASA, half HP, that already taking that angle is Twisted Minds. Now using that Ant Matrix on both sides. Kaneo also get the value out of there. Is Cookie, though, with the railgun shot through the Ant Matrix, finds Quartz on that distant angle. UB still waiting with the Blizzard as well. K is saying with the Annihilation, do they opt to use it? They're down a member of their team, but it's this corner that's incredibly hard to fight around. They're trying to bait Oblivione to pushing past the cart, but they don't need to because W Maimon has found Slay already. Nice work from him to take down Slay early on. Now Oblivione move forward onto that backside. Beat drop committed from Kelix and Twisted Minds, and the Blizzard as well, though, from W Maimon to make sure they get those kills and just stagger after stagger after stagger. Twisted Minds now have to regroup with a lot of time off the clock.
Yeah, XO doing a very good job of not overextending, however pulling back so that they have that natural cover to be able to fall in on when Quartz or UB tries to throw out this Blizzard.
They walk in, 1.5 minutes left. Twisted Minds now look to try to go aggressive in towards this fight into W Maimon. Now the overclock and Cookie over the top side. Kelix has already found his teammate, and the May is gone. Also, Vistola is found by Kelix after Blizzard from UB opens up this fight. Cookie, unfortunately, with the overclock, could not find maximum value. Now he's just going to the payload to die and stagger for potentially one more fight.
One more fight that might favor EXO, however. Twisted Minds, yes, they've got Annihilation and Overclock. They don't have Sound Barrier. They've got less than 1 minute now remaining. EXO are going to be able to push that high ground to their favor as well. They just have to be so aware of Quartz in the back line.
Looks like they're awfully aware of the objective this time. Running towards that payload is the side of Oblivione. Now Ant Matrix in the main. Vistola tries to go aggressive to shut down Quartz with the Annihilation as well. Goes deep onto Slay and able to find him with Kaneo. Out of the air, Slay is sniped by the Baptiste of Oblivione. The rest of Twisted Minds crumple amongst the payload as well. Now 30 seconds left. 1.8 meters on the cart left to go. Do Twisted Minds do this, Moxie? It's looking awfully close.
I mean, that's all tracking in action. EXO understand that Kelix is too far away from Soundfire. They put all of their ultimates into being able to play aggressively so that they get to hold this space and do exactly what we saw the other team do against them on Blizzard. We're going to now have to see Twist Minds with less than 10 seconds left push onto the payload through the entirety of the team.
Quartz is the one to touch on Tracer, by the way. Now it's Slay! Oh my god, the shots from the Baptiste through the Ant Matrix. DPS Baptiste in full play. That really just ruins everything for Oblivione now. They do build that Mayult soon, but it might be too late. W Maimon tosses it down. He's already lost Vistola and Kanale. Is the Blizzard enough to zone? They have to touch it to contest the payload. W Maimon falls, but the Baptiste performance from Slay enables Twisted Minds to capture her first point.
That's the only ultimate at the time that they had to be able to work with too. The fact that Slay is able to find that pick was something that EXO were just not expecting, and because they're playing to punish Twist Minds in terms of the time, they're all grouped up. No one can disengage safely. As we're gonna have to look. Is everyone saying I'm on TV?
Yes.
Are we still talking about the fact that EXO Charlie 9s? A lot of support in chat for Twisted Minds. Maybe if you want to balance things out, hit us with some tweets showing your love for EXO.
Wait, Quartz is also on Hanzo now, by the way. That's a swap that has happened. Now Cookie drops that overclock, but does he find the value? He's found Quartz, also connects onto the Immortality field, but he's already lost all of his team to the Blizzard of UB in the beat from Kelix. And, you know, maybe Quartz is just going to stick with the Hanzo throughout the rest of this map.
So in terms of the matchup, right, Hanzo has the ability to be able to one-shot without having to build up real ult fire, but he also has so much more shield pressure with those storm arrows where you can just shatter their solar shield in the blink of an eye, and that means that UB becomes so much more dangerous.
Ant Matrix from Slay again. There comes that wall to zone it off this time. A beat drop from Crispy to counter engage into Quartz with the Annihilation. Vistola, great work from him. They don't touch the payload! Are you kidding me? It happened again! What? What the hell, man?
Okay, we need to start installing these payloads with sat-navs, alright? Just to make sure. Well, there it is. perfect time. It's another C9.
My God, this is horrific. Twisted Minds now come into this fight. I mean, you gotta be aware of the payload in that fight, especially since you're winning it. Kelix finds W Maymon incredibly close to his own spawn. Doors now run towards Pistola. And every time last second, Twisted Minds are coming out on top. We'll see if Oblivione can recover. In this fight, it looks like they won't. They'll just take a quick reset on the cart. 2 minutes left now in the third phase. That's a solid time bank to work with, considering how close the first point was.
Yeah, they've got Annihilation too, and they know that Vestola just used his. Cookie now is actually forced onto the Hanzo to be able to deal equal pressure that Quartz has been able to hand out in terms of that Ramatra's utilities. But it's going to be Twisted Minds getting to play proactive. EXO, they've only got the Blizzard to be able to rally behind, and they're going to have to use it defensively.
Ready to go, Dragon Strike. Now comes that Blizzard from W Maymon. It goes onto KSA and connects onto him, but he does have Immortality Field there. Dragon Strike as well to zone the payload, so does save KSA's life as he goes aggressive on a Crispy. Slay is traded, though, by Cookie, who is also on a Hanzo. Now the May ultimate committed. The Blizzard goes aggressive. It actually finds everybody on Oblivione, but Blizzard will at least save most of their team. They did lose Kadale, who did drop the Ant Matrix, but it's Quartz to find the better of him with the Hanzo shot onto the back line. He does jump away as well. Eventually, Vestola will find Kelix. The payload is pushing forward, does get stopped temporarily, though. 50 seconds left. Find the stagger kills now onto KSA. It was dicey. KSA does find Vestola, but now 50 seconds left. Kanale also onto the Moira to try to stall, will eventually swap back.
Yeah, this was actually the hero that he got picked up on. If you remember all the way back last year for A-Sides for Munich, he did play that Moira to be able to survive, but he's going to have to go on to that Baptiste now to be able to have that lamp cooldown to allow Vestal the same amount of aggression that KSA is going to be looking to assert onto EXO's defense.
All right, Twisted Minds now come back into this fight to touch the payload and deal with Pistola. Already used that pummel form, so that cooldown down. Knowing that, KSA try to go aggressive, but the Blizzard does zone him back. Has to come back into the beat. Dragon Strike to follow up as well, and the Annihilation is here. It looks like this time they're well aware of that payload. Yubi comes through to try to touch last second, but this payload has already moved so much further than it probably should have. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. It really got a lot of value for where it most likely should not have stopped. Let's be honest. It should have stopped on A. Then it definitely should have stopped on B, but here we are. It stops not all the way through. It's not a full push. EXO are able to rally together, use all of their ultimates, and push on to Twisted Minds before they're able to aggress backwards. And a lot of it does actually come down to them just really being able to dump all of their ults into one fight and playing off of each other's utility. The Blizzard to force Sound Barrier, the Dragon Strike to be able to shed that extra armor incredibly quickly so that Twisted Minds aren't able to sustain back into that cooldown of Lamp from Slay to keep KSA alive is needed. EXO dumped all of their ultimates in incredibly quickly. If they hadn't been able to find those picks and Twisted Minds get to sustain, they build ultimates back when EXO have nothing.
I mean, this is why we talk about this map. Also, you know, the reason why we talk about Twisted Minds getting all the way over there, and that's still like a good thing for them, is because think about how many fights we saw, Moxie. I mean, that was what, 3 fights on first. We saw like 2 on second, and then another 2 onto that last point. I mean, that's a lot of different fights to deal with. And now on their defensive side, Twisted Minds are going to lock the Sojourn. Both teams opting for the Sojourn instead of maybe playing like the Hanzo they did earlier.
Yeah, it really does feel like this map has just become different shades of Havana, right? Same aggressive defensive hold towards the spawn to be able to burn off as much time as possible. Same priority of being able to hold that high ground on these really harsh corners, but the same compositions that are so strong on Havana as well.
Yeah, that's I guess how it is on these escort maps, not on hybrid necessarily. Vestola's already found Kelix, who took some poke earlier on. Nice work from him. Chased down that Lucio, who was in his face. Cookie also takes down Yubi. KSA did trade back Crispy, though, so both Lucios were removed. Twisted Minds, though, get picked again by W Maymon, who's hit some fantastic icicles with that off shot, as well as Oblivione win that first fight.
Not a lot of time as well drained away, and look at how aggressive EXO are being in terms of positioning. They're immediately pushing forward and taking away what was such a problematic first corner for Twisted Minds to have to push through.
Yeah, this is already getting to that angle, like you said. Now Twisted Minds coming through. Was the bottom of the ramp. They want to get that angle that gives them the advantage, so they go aggressive to fight for it, and Quartz actually comes out on top. Nice shot from him on the Crispy on the back line. The Immortality Field also onto Vistola to keep him sustained in this fight as Quartz, with that charged up shot, now looks for the back line, but Cookie's ready for him. Quartz also now has to deal with WMamon, who does a fantastic offensive, aggressive Maywall to get him to that high ground, chases down Quartz, and that should give them the opening that they needed, because that's a lot of the damage now gone for Twisted Minds. Cookie, with the damage on his side, does take down Yubi as well, and now they have to deal with an annihilation from KSA, and they do so quite easily with the Blizzard to stop him. And now they're just going to get this payload pushing forward. As long as there's not many more staggers here, I wonder if Twisted Minds can even touch.
Maymon, absolute MVP. Like you said, he's able to dive onto Quartz before he's able to stop that value from Ant Matrix coming through from Kinel. Then he uses the Blizzard to set Cookie up to build into Overclock. Look at where the Sojourn is. They're not going to expect it.
Oh my god, but it's Slay in the 1 versus 1. The disruptor shot too much to deal with, and same with the Overclock, but maybe he bought time for Quartz to pop off. Crispy has found Yubi, and also, though, Quartz has found Cookie after coming back, although the payload, again, was not touched last second there. Now Oblivione will capture it, moving on to second, and potentially will find the stagger kills on the Twisted Minds as they look to retreat.
Oh, and Twisted Minds have just lost one of the trump cards as well for defending Shambali. They've lost that early high ground control, where they can push all of this pressure on as the payload moves up the ramp. And again, we're seeing Vestola playing super aggressive to make sure the Twisted Minds don't find those angles and cleave the pummel through. Instead, they have to drop, but the wall from Maymon splits the team!
Yeah, they're split off. They eventually break through the middle, but the damage is already done. Vistola has found Slay on that low ground. They also have an Ant Matrix and Immortality Field on Vistola to find him in that Blizzard from Yubi as well. So ultra committed there from Twisted Minds, but unfortunately, nothing is going to come of it. Oblivione are doing a great job with the ult game like they did on the defense.
Oh, Twisted Minds, their back's against the wall. They're missing an absence of players, so they have to throw in ultimates to try and compensate and grab this really significant space of defending Shambali back. That high ground, that corner, it's so hard to break normally, but it just doesn't happen because of that wall from Maymon. The fact as well that they have to spend so long taking out Immortality Field, and Yubi's Icicle actually misses, so it's still up and saving all the team.
Now in this fight of Blizzard to zone out the back line, Quartz has found WMamon, though. Nice shot from him. Slay also with the Ant Matrix, but unfortunately could not touch the payload again. Now we're moving into third phase. Even though Twisted Minds have won this team fight, seemingly Yubi's also found Cookie. Annihilation here from Vistola. Does have Immortality Field, but eventually he will fall to KSA. Doesn't matter. They got now forward spawns yet again, and Cookie swapping over to the Hanzo.
Well, I mean, not only do they have the payload, doesn't look at the time bank that they're coming in with. Have we ever seen 4 minutes for a team to be able to push Shambali C? I've never seen
I don't know. No, I have not seen it either. Twisted Minds, though, in this fight, looking to fight aggressive, knowing they don't have a large time, or their time bank of Oblivione is large and can be easily worked with here. Zoned out, though, is Oblivione. They're kind of hiding away from this Ant Matrix. Again, Quartz does have the overclock in this fight. The Maywall comes through onto the backside counter. Ant Matrix on Oblivione's offense. The overclock is here. No value entirely found from it. Just trying to slow down the push from Oblivione. The beat drop still available for Kelix. No beat for Oblivione. Knowing that Twisted Minds have the ultimate advantage, they drop the Blizzard into Vistola. No beat to save him. So Vistola and Kinel both fall, as well as WMamon gets chased down on their side. Twisted Minds, that's a team fight win for them.
Yeah, Yubi doing a very good job just walling Vistola off incredibly early, so he's not actually able to escape the Blizzard and that freeze. And not able to actually get the heals either from Canelo or Crispy, both blocked out of line of sight, as Twisted Minds making sure no rotations easily coming for Exo's side. So Cookie Maymon not getting the chance to find those early primary picks that the team have relied on. Dragon Strike should split Twisted Minds, however, as we're going to see Vessel trying to play aggressively off of the back of it, but it doesn't find the kills they're looking for, as they now gets to use Ant Matrix and Twisted Minds to try and recover.
They come back into this fight, into that Blizzard, and Oblivione look to win this team fight. Now 2 minutes and 30 seconds, Moxie. They've built up 2 ultimates as well with the Blizzard and their Mantra ultimate, as well as Kelix, though, does have a beat drop on his side where Crispy just used his.
KSA is super close to Annihilation as well. Should be getting it around the same time as Vestola, but he has to be so careful of Maymon's Blizzard to try and peel the reactions of it.
Ready to go in this fight. Cookie trying to break down those shields from KSA as Twisted Minds look to just play this corner. Allowing Cookie, though, these shots is them during this fight as well, dropping the Amp Matrix. Now Cookie hits the shot onto Yubi. Great work from him before the beat drop could come through. The Blizzard also here from W. Maimon. They're sustained as well through that immortality field. It looks like Kellex is doing a great job stalling this payload, just living somehow versus the entirety of Oblivione. Eventually, the head of him is found. Eventually, Cookie also gets on the courts. Vistola finds Slay. Nobody else can touch either. And Oblivione will take a map to try to make the reverse sweep against Twisted Minds.
EXO, perfect timing. They catch right on to the members of Twisted Minds, with Maimon having that Blizzard earlier than Yubi. So even though we see Annihilation for Annihilation, it's the Blizzard that stops any of the aggression that Twisted Minds are looking to be able to pick up with it. Maimon, absolute standout player. For the entirety of this map, a large reason why EXO had so much time to be able to work with coming to see.
Yeah, Mei at the moment is an incredibly strong hero, and obviously some changes coming through in upcoming patches for Overwatch. Slay also was a hero for Twisted Minds at points. I mean, we can see why Oblivione liked this map. Shambali seemed like a fantastic map for them, even though, the defense, at times they did falter. It seemed like they were overall in control throughout the entirety of Shambali.
Yeah, I think EXO sometimes, they just got a little bit too bloodlustful. Right? A large example of that being Vessel with Annihilation running right past payload, so that Twisted Minds are able to take B. But again, you have the ultimate. The Ramattra needs to come into contact with those players so that Annihilation can continue to tick down. And EXO on the defense had a very, very good turnaround when they were able to just push aggressively forward, take Twisted Minds down, take away some of the real places as well that are so problematic for Shambali. There's a reason that when we were coming to this map, we were pointing out this is a defensively favored map. To have 4 minutes after pushing through A and B is practically unheard of. But a large part of it comes down to EXO just being very vigilant of where they're taking these fights, where they're taking the space away from the defense, so they're not able to use those long lens of sights, the high ground, or even those corners to be able to push the time bank down.
Yeah, and now Moxie obviously leading into the next map. Looks like it's going to be Esperanza for Twisted Minds. This is the one they think that'll work out for them as well. And obviously, it's going to be our first push map of the series. We've seen previously a lot of Sojourn in recent metas for the side of Oblivione. They've always been solid on these type of maps, but Twisted Minds, obviously up 2 in the series. Now to drop that third map. Leading into this map number 4, do you think Oblivione have reclaimed a bit of the momentum in this series to come back against Twisted Minds?
I think yes, absolutely. From the performance they had on Shambali, from A and B, if they'd continued to storm through C like they had, then they would be feeling a lot more confident, because push is all about tempo setting, right? Being able to take the fights where you want them, being able to push your opponents off of being able to have those prize positions the way that we saw EXO taking control of Shambali on A and B. But then we hit C, and that was a little bit of a roadblock, especially when they were pushed straight back into spawn, and we did see Twisted Minds being able to establish a stranglehold of those spawn points. And I would honestly say this is one of the team's best maps because of Quartz. Quartz's performances on all of the maps so far, stellar, but when we move on to this map in particular, he just rockets up into such an elevated position on the hit scan.
Yeah, it's an incredibly good map for him, Esperanza, obviously, and that's obviously, why they've chosen it. Why we're not seeing any subs come through at all for Twisted Minds. They're just incredibly confident with Quartz running in the lineup. Obviously, on that Sojourn has flexed a lot over even to Hanzo in that previous map, but also his Widowmaker at times. In Shambali didn't really work out for him because eventually Crispy ran him down. But, I think that just shows that the support players as well are doing a good job in general in the series. Yes, I think Cookie, W. Maimon, Yubi, and Quartz are all taking the headline at points. It seems like Twisted Mind's backline, and same with Oblivione's backline, are really what's keeping Vistola and KSA alive in a lot of these fights where maybe lesser flex supports or lesser support players would not be able to keep them alive. For example, in Blizzards, right? A lot of time the Blizzards will come through from either WM1 or UB, and it seems like KSA and Vistola just live through it a lot of these fights, really enabling their team to come back, against the brink. And on Esperanza, like you said, though, that's going to be, as a flex support, my most worrisome target, because really, no matter how much healing you do, it's hard to shut down a one-shot from either that Icicle or the railgun shots.
Yeah, I think like the strongest rule of thumb for the backline, for the casting perspective, if we're not talking about the supports, that means you're doing your job, right? You're keeping those players alive, you're not going down too early, you're not throwing your utilities and your ultimates, like you're not overlapping them, which is a big peeve when we were running. Like when you had a Kiriko and a Lucio, it could work because you wanted to play as aggressively as possible off of Kitsune Rush. Yeah. But in these times when you have amplification matrix, you have the lamp, right? You don't want to throw a sound barrier over the top because if you don't win the fight off of the amp matrix, you need to have something in the tank to still be able to carry on the fight afterwards. There it is. We're seeing a balance come through. We asked for the balance on the tweets, and now we're getting Derek saying EXO fighting. And EXO after Shambali, certainly fighting incredibly strong. But this is going to be their biggest test. This is where we're going to see all of those utilities, all of the punishments really come into play. You can't throw all of your ultimates into one fight. You have to be thinking about the fight that comes out afterwards.
Yeah, 10 seconds now to the doors unlock. We'll see both teams opt to run. Cookie on the Sojourn courts, thinking that he wants to teleport his team out early as well for Twisted Minds, and then more than likely will swap over to that Sojourn. But if you want to let us know what you're thinking, make sure to use our hashtag OWPTP2023. Oblivione roll out with the Sojourn, and as does Twisted Minds.
Who's going to be able to get into position fast enough is the problem. Cookie, already up on the high ground, actually opts to give it up. He's going to be taking an incredibly long flank with the rest of his team towards the back end of that small room.
Yeah, and they've actually already used the Maywall onto the side of Twisted Minds. Forces KSA into the corner, but he's able to live because Ramacha has a bajillion HP at the current moment, using that wall as UB to try to zone back, but this spot is a bit too open to deal with this aggressive push now from Oblivione. They look to move forward onto Slay and able to find him. A lot of that space was claimed by Oblivione, like you said, able to take that off angle, and now really with a lot of it, they're able to push forward. A very aggressive push from Calyx into that fight, knowing they were losing it. Cookie does trade back the other two members of Twisted Minds. Fight number one going in the favor of Oblivione.
And again, it's that synergy. Maymon actually pushes through because even though EXO at the beginning of the fight had taken that off angle, Twisted Minds try and push them off of it because EXO had to throw a lamp in incredibly early. But Maymon comes through with the primary, forces Twisted Minds back, and it's the peripherals of Cookie who's still hanging back, still having that bird's eye view, and is able to snipe Slay down. Without that Baptiste, they just don't have the sustain. As now we're going to see Twisted Minds having to look into the faces of EXO, but KSA finds the first pick. The drop from EXO isn't coordinated enough.
A nice job from KSA to connect onto WMAMO. Annihilation is also out, but a beat drop sustains versus it. And now with this recontest, they've gotten rid of that Annihilation, the Ant Matrix as well, for only a beat drop. You'll take that as Twisted Minds.
Sound Barrier, Annihilation, Ant Matrix all thrown in, but like you said, Twisted Minds are the ones to come out on top, and they're going to have that advantage still moving forward into this next fight. They have that high ground. We're already going to be seeing Quartz immediately power sliding to occupy it, as everyone from Twisted Minds just tries to spam and gather as much distance as possible as EXO come through these tight spaces.
They're looking to pressure that back line. They've committed the Ant Matrix as well. The Maywall to zone it off to the high ground as Oblivione now rotate, trade it back underneath. Vistola forced to use, or forced to go into pummel form and also get the beat drop to sustain. Now counters though is KSA with the Annihilation to find WMAMO, and as both Mays are removed from the lobby, Cookie on the low ground with the overclock has to deal with the overhealth as well from Twisted Minds. They're able to sustain through that ultimate from him, and he's zoned off from the backline. Calyx as well trying to deal with Crispy, who went aggressive. As Crispy does take down Quartz, that's a lot of your damage removed. Cookie also dealing with the pressure of Calyx, eventually finds him as well, but not after Cookie's found Slay, so his support duo is removed, and the cart, unfortunately, not going to mean an advantage yet for them either, as Oblivione reclaimed the robot.
Maymon's going to be able to have the Blizzard, but Quartz has the overclock, and he is not going to be playing close enough to be caught by the freeze. He's going to be able to use it to peel for his team if anyone does get caught out. So we're seeing EXO being very smart, not pushing too far forward, not engaging Twisted Minds until they decide to try and drop down onto them.
And now they do so. They have the overclock. Maywalls from both sides. Blizzard from the low ground. Quartz connects onto Kanale, who was jumping in the sky to avoid Quartz. Now Cookie also trying to do the same. They've only found one. Now KSA connects onto the Stola after Oblivione used that Blizzard. Crispy has found Slay. Cookie also connects onto Yubi, and as long as Crispy's alive, this might be winnable, but Quartz connects onto him in the air. KSA also finds Cookie and WMMO as they reclaim the robot.
Seesaw. Push is all about Seesaw. The first fight and the last fight are the most important, as we can have a look at KSA. He's only died once. So again, Slayingcat's doing a very good job, but KSA doing an incredibly good job as well, not making sure to over-aggress onto Exo, not being getting caught out by Mamo when he looks to wall the ram off of from his team.
And look, Oblivione actually touched that robot before. It gives Twisted Minds the advantage, making sure if Oblivione wins this fight, they'll still be in favor in the map. Both Ant Matrix used a very aggressive one from Kaneo, but Quartz shuts it down, takes down Crispy, and now Quartz is trying to continue this rampage onto Oblivione. Incoming annihilation from Pistola, but it might be too little too late as Cookie falls. The rest of his team as well collapses around him. He eventually collapses as well. Twisted Minds now have the advantage in the meter department.
Yeah, good wall from Yubi to actually wall off Festola's annihilation. He does catch Quartz, but in the meantime, the rest of the team gets to go free, as we're now going to see Twisted Minds on the brink of being able to pick up these early spawns, and Exo cannot allow that, but the May wall, they're not going to be able to touch!
No, it cannot touch to make sure the checkpoint goes on the side of Twisted Minds. Fantastic Maywall from Yubi. But the fight's still not over just yet. It's still a 5 versus 5. Cookie comes for this left side, is spotted out though. Was trying to use it in a bit of an ambush angle, so he regroups the rest of his team with this overclock as Twisted Minds have a beat drop to counter Crispy's on his side, as well as the annihilation where Pistola doesn't have his. WMaimon also hasn't built that Blizzard at either. Cookie on the off angle, spotted out, also a headshot onto him, needs to get healed up, falls back towards the rest of his team. The beat drop is here. Now counter beat drop from Crispy as Kellex used his a little bit earlier. Yubi also commits to Blizzard, but no kills just yet from him either in this fight. WMaimon finally has built this Blizzard, gets the immortality field to stay alive and eventually live as well, but the robot's still in their favor as KSA has created a lot of space with his annihilation. Yubi's able to find WMaimon, but Kanel eventually connects onto KSA, who was incredibly low, could not get those heals from Slay. The Ant Matrix was committed there from Kanel in that fight, as well as they've reclaimed the robot, but a lot of meters connected on for Twisted Minds' clock.
So much distance and so many ultimates as well forced out of Exo's hands. Twisted Minds can just look to reset. They're still going to be able as well to have this control around this corner when they go for that regroup. They're not going to allow Exo to be able to pick up those early spawns, and they're already taking away the high ground.
Walk through though to stop to make sure Oblivione don't control that high ground. Ant Matrix committed from Slay just to reclaim some space, make sure this robot doesn't push past the bridge. Overclock now committed from Quartz as well on the recontest. Pistola goes incredibly low and actually falls to the disruptor shot, and KSA also connects on to Kaneo. Now just WMaimon on the top side of the bridge. Twisted Minds reclaimed that robot once again with 3 minutes and 20 seconds now. Not a lot of ultimates built. This is getting worrisome for Oblivione.
Yeah, those early spawns really do give you a significant advantage, being able to immediately take that fight on the high ground. So we saw Exo fully split off because no one has the confidence to be able to peek through that amp, and that just gives Quartz such a free reign of the spaces. Cookie is approaching the overclock, Maimon approaching Blizzard as well.
Ooh.
Good pick onto Yubi with the zone from Vestola, stopping the mate from being able to peel back to his team and catching Kellex, who was actually too close to the ramp, trying to get the mate to safety. Gets caught in the sidelines with that pummel, and Exo are able to turn it around. This is the crucial thing. They don't use an ultimate to be able to win that fight. They get to hold on and now aggressively move forward to make sure that Twist Minds don't get that same space that they were able to use the last time to win the fight.
Stolen over the top of the bridge to control that space. Twisted Minds not able to contest it this time. The robot, though, still in a similar position as it was before, so it's up to Oblivione to try to use some ultimates. The onus is on them to get through this little choke point. Cookie drops down below. Maywall used to zone off that low ground. WMaimon also commits to Blizzard to try to find KSA early before he gets the annihilation. Counter play ult from Yubi. The Blizzard is here to maybe stop that push, but Stola goes incredibly low and eventually will fall to Quartz, so it's even so far. Ant Matrix from Kaneo on the low ground should give them some amount of damage, but it's still Quartz over the top to harass until Crispy is there on the Lucio, who's having a phenomenal series. Gets Quartz out of the fight with 1 minute and 30 seconds left now.
They should have the advantage until Kellis comes back. He trades back. Crispy the robot has not moved just yet. Cookie has to commit the overclock to trade it back to get rid of Kelix as well as they come through the low ground to try to find W. Maimon Cookie with the overclock attempts to find a little bit more, but this robot still has not moved past the choke point as KSA is still in this fight. They finally have control of that robot, but you still have Yubi on the low ground to harass them to make sure they can't get past this choke. Bastola not able to get through it. The Annihilation is here from KSA, who connects on the W. Maimon, and Bastola's was there as well, but it was far too late. Twisted Minds, at the end of it all, have won this team fight. Now a minute left.
Oh, EXO used so many ultimates. They used Annihilation. Twisted Minds did have to use the Annihilation of their own. Both Rams moving past each other to try and find those picks. Maimon's going to have the Blizzard. Kinell's going to have the Amp. The Twisted Minds have the advantage in terms of overall distance as we're under a minute on the clock. Quartz is going to have an overclock. Slay's going to have an Amp. EXO don't have the time to be able to retreat. Twisted Minds can just play the clock to be able to win the series overall.
27 seconds left. W. Maimon has built the Blizzard against the overclock of Quartz. And like I said, Twisted Minds can just play that clock. They can just play in the most advantageous angle. Looks like they want to take it at the bridge. Oblivione are going to have to go into Quartz on the high ground. Maybe pick him off early. Ant Matrix here from the top side, bottom. Ant Matrix as well. Slay, though, connects on the W. Maimon. Also has the has the Immortality Field there. Quartz, nice shots from him. 3K in this fight to close out the series, to give Twisted Minds the 3-1 victory over Oblivione. And they do so quite well. Twisted Minds win on Esperanza.
Name of the game on this map in particular, on any part of Push, really, is understanding where your composition and your ultimate usages are going to be at that strongest. They don't push around the corner. They don't go for more distance. They understand that they have the ultimate advantage. They don't need to poke to be able to ball those up. And we get to see this exactly of the game. And there is nothing that anyone can do on the side of EXO against it, because we're heading into OT. If they try and move away from that objective, they're going to lose the map regardless of if they're able to take Quartz down, who's popping off in that ultimate.
Yep, and this means that Twisted Minds will be moving forward into that grand finals, which will be on June 10th. I mean, I'll be incredibly excited for that, and that obviously for Oblivione means they're going to that lower bracket final to play against the winner of Aw Yeah in Triple Esports. And you gotta feel good for Twisted Minds. Obviously had a fantastic season. You know, leading forward, they've only really dropped one map so far to each team on their way up to that grand finals matchup, looking like an absolute dominant team at the moment. At times, Oblivione, they did look good though, right, Moxie?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Vestor and Maimon with just the zones and the wall synergies. You saw it there. Maimon was attempting to be able to capitalize off of that zone coming from Vestor. Doesn't find the success that they're looking for in that iteration, but every other time, Shambali was just a highlight for the entirety of EXO's side. The problem is that they were already 2 maps down, and because Twisted Minds took that loss on Shambali, they were the ones who got to pick that push map, and they took us to their strongest map in terms of enabling Quartz. We talked about it before we headed into this map. We said that he would be one of those players that you had to keep an eye on, and you can absolutely see that Twisted Minds have figured out how valuable he can be, whether it's on the Cassidy to deal with those Pharah compositions, or whether it's just on that Mirror Sojourn. Quartz is not going to miss when he's getting so many of these resources funneled into his side. And Twisted Minds, they're a team that understand how to set DPS up for victory.
Yep, and they're doing so quite well at the moment. Twisted Minds with the 3-1 win over Oblivione. Will have to talk to KSA and kind of pick his brain on what happened in that matchup and how they're feeling going forward into the grand finals. So don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back with an interview with KSA.
Are your Dragon Blades missing the mark?
Do you want to go from a bad Genji to a pro Genji?
Looking for that next big thing to rank up and improve your gameplay?
Well, look no further than our brand new Overwatch Contenders Genji skin! With our exclusive custom-made hoodie, your Genji gameplay will automatically be taken up a notch.
And you'll look more stylish as you team wipe fight after fight.
Just look at that stitching.
To acquire your sick Genji threads,
So you can destroy in ranked and dominate all your enemies.
dude, chill.
Sorry, man, I'm just getting into it.
All you have to do is connect your Battle.net account to Twitch.
After that, watching Overwatch Contenders will contribute to your drops progress.
Letting you claim each magnificent offering, including the keen blade of Overwatch Contenders Genji.
Welcome back, everybody. Fantastic series between Twisted Minds and Oblivione. So we've brought you guys a little bit of a guest. We brought KSA for an interview. How you doing, man? How you feeling leading up to those grand finals, which you guys have, now punched your ticket towards? How you feeling, KSA? How's it going, man?
Feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty confident. We're gonna take a quick photo on the front grand finals, hopefully.
Oh yeah.
Confident words, but I mean, the performance definitely showing why that confidence is backed up. Talking about compositions then, we were expecting maybe Lambda to get fielded, but it seems like you guys were just confident to be able to take the mirror match. Was that the reason that we saw Quartz and Yubi remain in the entire series?
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking about, like, should we even play Fire Comp? Because it's a lot harder to make work, because it just requires everyone to play perfectly. We'd just rather play mirror, because we're the best Ram mirror EU team, so it just makes it easier for us. Just play Ram mirror, we win.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, for you guys, obviously, like you said, it seemed like you guys are just the best at the Ram mirror at the moment. Do you feel though like Oblivione has kind of been your hardest opponent with running that Sojourn May with the Ramatra? And have they been one of the hardest teams to take down so far?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Okay.
It was a little bit hard. Unfortunately, lost to C9s. That Shambali was full of C9s from both teams.
What happened there? What happened there? I mean, on both sides, obviously. Is that miscommunication, or things happen in Overwatch too?
I don't know. It just happened. We both C9 first point and second point, so it just can happen, I guess.
So were you expecting Shambali to be the map that they took you to?
Not really. We were expecting Junkertown. Because no one ever plays Junkertown, and I thought they were gonna pull up the Junkertown as just play a map that nobody plays and just hope for the best. But we were also prepared for that, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, okay, so you guys were prepared for Junkertown as well, and overall, you guys have only dropped one map so far. I mean, what do you think is the biggest reason for your guys' success? Is it just the fact that you can flex to those Farrah comps whenever you want, or you could just take that Ram mirror? I mean, it feels like no matter what the meta is, you guys seem to be on top. Would you say that is your greatest strength as a team at the moment, where you guys have been incredibly flexible in general?
Yeah, I'd say that's our biggest strength. We do not just can only play Fire comps. You can just play other comps like Ram or Doom or any other comp. And I'd say we're all pretty good friends, so it's just a lot easier to play together.
So then, what's your favorite composition to play? Because obviously, as that role of the tank, if you're playing that far on the Echo, there's a lot less focus about being able to sort of help your backline, because you've obviously got one of your supports up in the air.
Yeah, I'd say my favorite, probably Ram comp, but I'd say the second best is probably Doom Far. That was really fun to play. Unfortunately, no one is playing Reinhardt, so outdated hero.
And for you in particular, for the Ramatra comp, KSA, I mean, obviously, what do you think makes it so good at the moment? What makes Ramatra so meta. I mean, if, at least from the outside, it looks like you just never die. Is that like a big reason why you use all your cooldowns? You know, the block, you got the pummel form. Is there a particular reason why you think Ramatra is just kind of the best tank at the moment?
Well, he's just better suited for like Crush. It used to be Ryan, but Ram has a little bit like an advantage against Ryan, so Ryan can't really do much. It's just a better hero, better rush hero currently.
That makes a lot of sense.
Last question from me. Obviously, we know that you're going to be going through to tomorrow's final. You've taken down all of the teams remaining in the brackets. Is there one specific opponent that you would want to go up against? You've already said that EXO was one of the stronger teams that you've gone up against. Would you prefer getting to play that mirror against them? Or would you rather be going up against someone like Triple, who's going to be able to mirror that Pharah comp?
I'd rather play against Triple because I have a bunch of friends there. It's going to be a fun match.
Okay. Yeah, that's totally fair. And obviously you guys look clean on Esperanza. And, you know, a lot of the times you just like made sure that cart, for example, wouldn't go past that bridge side. Was that all in the gameplay? And obviously just to make sure that Oblivione just could not control that robot ever. I mean, there was a team fight that lasted like a whole minute where you guys just stopped Oblivione from getting through the bottom side of that bridge. Is this like kind of in your guys' game plan? You just know how to play Esperanza so well?
Yeah, it's like if we're in the mirror, we were playing slow because like they had Mayot, and we're just planning to we can't really push up because we're just gonna get Mayoted, so we just stay around the corners here, and they have to make the first move, which they didn't, so it lasted like for a whole minute.
Do you think that's because you guys are just at a point where teams are kind of getting nervous versus you and don't really want to make the first move, or it's like you guys will, yeah,
I'd say so.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fair. Is there well, KSA, obviously you guys moved to the grand finals, you looked amazing doing so. Good luck to you. Is there any last thoughts you want to say before obviously you move on to tomorrow's match, get a little bit of a rest?
No, nothing.
Okay, appreciate it, KSA. Thanks for coming by, man. It was great watching you, and good luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
That's KSA from Twisted Minds. Now we move forward, Moxie, obviously, to the lower bracket where a lot of the games are now going to take place. But for the last game of today, we have Oh Yeah versus Triple Esports, Moxie. I mean, you've been looking forward to this one for the entire playoffs.
Oh, I can't believe I'm about to say that Oh Yeah might be able to use Junkrat as a counter to Pharah compositions, but you've seen Kaya. You've seen Kaya go for those double mine jumps to be able to deal with those Pharahs. And honestly, I didn't expect to see Oh Yeah second seed in regular season as well, dropping down to that loss against EXO, headed into that lowest bracket, having to play up against Triple to be able to survive and potentially look for that grudge rematch against EXO, who await the winner tomorrow. This is going to be a matchup that I can't wait to see which of these teams is going to be able to come out on top. But shenanigans is certainly going to be afoot.
For sure, so you're not going to want to miss this match, guys. Triple Esports and Oh Yeah will be coming up after a short break, so we'll be right back with the match ready to go between Oh Yeah and Triple Esports.
Tracer has quickly become one of the most popular heroes in high-level Overwatch 2. It takes insane mechanical skill, cerebral game sense, and ice in your veins to make impact plays with her, but these players make it look easy.
Maymon and Vestola just playing off of each other perfectly.
W Maymon, by the way, found one who built that Transcendent. And a pulse bomb connects onto both Fuki and Turkey. W Maymon on this map, on Havana, truly has been next level.
And just as their eyes glance away, a pulse bomb connects to the back of their head. Kanale and Cookie hit the dirt.
Rocket trying. Rocket could be a hero in moments like these.
Rocket saved the day again!
Rocket's gonna chase him out too. Oh, and he Tracer gaps him. Yeah, Rocket's that guy right now.